And you know, if you get into meditation far enough, if you walk this path long enough, you're able to answer the question the way the meditation masters answer the question. When they were asked, well, what about other people? And they said, there are no other people. And that's the truth. You know, the truth is the awareness that you are is the awareness that I am. And just because we have different physical bodies and we're living in a time-space reality temporarily, we take that to be reality when it's not. Scientists tell us time is not real, space is not real. These are all perceptions that we're having. But the one thing that science can't deal with, it's called the difficult problem, is consciousness. Because there is nothing realer than consciousness, and yet we can't prove its existence. It's an interesting problem for scientists. There's nothing realer than consciousness. You experience nothing more realer than the awareness that you are. That's the most real thing you will ever experience while you're in this temporary visit called your human life. Meditation, if you practice it the way it's meant to be done, is psychotherapy. It is definitely psychotherapy. I teach it to all my clients, well, the ones that are, you know, willing in my psychology practice, because it can be very powerful and very useful if you're going to talk about how your life is going. Don't you think it would be fundamental if you're going to talk to a psychologist about how your life is going for you to know who you are? If you don't know who you are, what are we talking about? If you come to see me as a psychotherapist, we're talking about the illusion you keep experiencing called you. That's not going to be very stable for us to talk about, and it's not. You know, people come into psychotherapy, they have one conversation, the next week they come back, I don't know if I'm talking to the same person. That's how unstable your personality is. That's how unstable human life is for most of us, right? If you look at it, the world's changing all the time, your body's changing all the time, your mind's changing all the time, your emotions are changing all the time. Where are you going to have any stability? Where is there going to be anything that's consistent, you know? I always kid around about it, but that's why people get married. They're trying to get some consistency. If I get a license for this relationship, maybe she can't leave and I can count on it. Of course, we know how that works. It has made lawyers very wealthy. And I can speak from there because I've done it 4 times and I've realized it just doesn't work to do that. So thank God I stopped before it's too late. And I highly invite you to stop before it's too late. Stop managing your relationships with your mind and you might start to discover the possibility of them working. So any questions about any of that? So one of the things that I want to do here, because it's free now and it should be free, the truth shouldn't cost anything, is I want to have us identify ourselves as a community. One of the things that I say in the introduction to this class is that meditation has to be a practice. If you don't establish a meditation practice, you don't have meditation in your life. You don't drop into meditation once in a while. It doesn't work like that. And for those of you who've been coming to the class, you've already experienced the fact that the hardest part of practicing meditation is the beginning, right? Because you don't have a habit to do it, right? And it's a very uncomfortable experience when you first start to practice meditation because you have to be with your mind, right? You have to be with your mind, not being your mind. And when you be with your mind and you're not being with your mind, you can see how crazy it is. And that can be uncomfortable. And you can see how impatient it is. That's why you can't sit still very long before your body starts to react. So meditation has to be a practice that you're practicing with an understanding. If you do this the right way consistently, your autonomic nervous system will start to calm down. Your mind and body will start to come into balance, right? And then you'll start going sane. You'll start to be able to deal with life in a way where you can start to see things as they are. And when you see things as they are, the actions you take will be useful because they'll be related to reality instead of related to what you believe or what you think or what your past has been. So what's available here is happiness and well-being. And it's a process that requires consistency. Right? And so the practice is something that requires not only the ability to sit still for a while and do it on every day without fail, but it also involves understanding what you're doing. Somebody who learns how to practice the technique and that's the only thing that they learn won't get very deep into the experience of meditation. They may relax the body a little bit, reduce stress a little bit, right? But it won't do anything to help them wake up and realize the truth of who they are. And it won't do anything to help them to begin to start to practice what it means to be healthy. If you start to become more awake, if you start to experience yourself as the awareness that is your true nature, there will be a natural reality that begins to happen spontaneously. Not only will you feel happy without a reason, not only will you feel at peace more of the time without a reason, right? But you'll discover what's called open intelligence. For those of you who have been listening to Candace O'Denver, she talks about awareness using the term open intelligence. And she does that because when you are awake and aware, instead of being in a very limited state of mind with a very limited amount of information to function with, your mind opens up. And when your mind opens up and you're in a relaxed state, you experience open intelligence, and open intelligence is equal to wisdom. And wisdom and open intelligence is unlimited. It means that you now have access to all the information in the universe. That sounds crazy, but it's true. You know, the truth is really, the truth is hard to believe. The more you get used to the truth, the more you hear about the truth, the harder it gets to believe that all you have to do is this practice every single day, and you can go sane, be happy, be peaceful, and be content. And yet that's true. That's true. Jesus Christ tried to explain that to people, and he said to people, I offer you life everlasting. And people thought, oh, he's going to perform a miracle. That's a miracle, life everlasting, right? No, they didn't understand. What he was talking about is the natural reality, the natural truth. And when you discover your true nature as is awareness itself and you get familiar with it, you will be discovering that this awareness that you're getting familiar with never changes. And you can't find a beginning to it, and you can't find an end to it, and it has no form. It's been there all your life. And if you can't find a beginning to it, it means it wasn't born. And if it wasn't born, it can't die. Well, maybe that's what Jesus Christ was pointing to, life everlasting. And maybe it's that natural, that obvious, and that easy for all of us. Maybe it's the truth for everybody, whether you know it or not. So you could struggle your whole life trying to figure life out, trying to figure out what to do and what to practice so you can be sane, hoping that when the body dies, you'll have a good afterlife. When the body dies, you'll go to heaven or you'll have some kind of good afterlife. But when you wake up and you begin to experience the truth, the way things actually are, you realize this is the afterlife. Nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to happen. The only thing that's going to happen, even for all of the multitude of human beings that are crazy as hell and are struggling to try and get happy by buying more stuff, even those neurotic, crazy people, when they die, will experience the natural state. Because the natural state is natural. It's what they were. If you look at the awareness that you are, which is available at all times, I highly recommend that you see if you can pay attention to awareness, right? That which has no form and is always here, right? See if you can start to distinguish it for yourself. And if you look at that awareness that never changes, that is always here, it's exactly the same as it was when you were 5 years old. It has never been any different. It never changes. It's constant. It's stable. It's fulfilling. Its nature is fulfilling. Its nature is satisfied. Its nature is happiness. Its nature is love. Its nature is interested in experiencing the expansion of itself. And so when it sees itself in the form of 8 billion other crazy people who don't know the truth about themselves, anybody who is awake feels a natural interest in sharing the truth with them because it's your nature. They are you, and if they're suffering, then you're suffering. That's why in the Buddhist teachings they say, if you wake up, you become a bodhisattva. A bodhisattva means that an awake human being knows that until all of humanity is awake and experiencing the truth, that they will remain in that condition. They won't let go and just transcend the typical human life. Yeah, because there's only one truth. That's why it's called non-dual teaching, non-dual reality, not 2, not 3, not 10, not 10 million, just one truth. And that's why I say it, I don't care whether you're a Catholic, a Zen Buddhist, a Protestant, a Hindu, it doesn't matter what you are, right? All of those faiths, all of those institutionalized religions began with mysticism, began with somebody who was experiencing the truth, right? And then they started to add little things, this and that to it, and and started institutions, and then the survival of the institution became more important than the truth. So it doesn't matter what you call it, it's irrelevant, right? If you get to know it, you'll know what it is. And if you know what it is, you'll know the power of it, you'll know the importance of it, you'll know that it's the heart of the matter, right? And as you get to taste it, you'll get glimpses of it before you open up to it completely. But as you get to taste it, the taste will motivate you to stay on the path, to stay in the practice, and to do it every single day without fail. And then once you get familiar enough with it, you can begin to add to it the next phase of the therapy. And the next phase of the therapy is to extend the formal practice to an informal practice. To start to practice not just for a brief period of time every day, but to start to practice all the time. That's the transition, because when you start to practice it all the time, you're now transitioning out of what you weren't, out of what you were not, to what you are. And it's an easy practice because you're already what you are. All you have to do is pay attention to your continually thinking that you're something that you're not. And every time you have that thought, or any time you behave according to what you're not, you just notice it. Every time you notice it, it loses its ability to be your identity. And gradually you find yourself being the awareness. And when you're being the awareness, your life has been fulfilled, because that's the fulfillment of a human life, to be what you naturally and truly are. So the informal practice means that, what does it mean? It means that you're practicing now by resting as awareness for brief moments as often as you can, all day long. And it's different from the formal practice, because in the formal practice, we're sitting still and being silent. It's a controlled situation. We're not doing anything but practicing meditation. In the informal practice, now you're going to learn to ride the bike of meditation, meaning that you're going to start practicing being aware of your awareness even while you're talking, being aware of your awareness even while you're living your life, going through the day, eating, talking, walking, the whole 9 yards, right? It's a skill. It's a higher skill than just sitting in formal meditation, because you've got to be able to be aware of awareness while you're being the personality, while you're living your life, being the action figure. But if you do that practice as often as possible and have it be your intention to increase the frequency of doing it, right? Can you see that by doing that, you will be eliminating the false personality, because the more you are who you really are, the less you are who you're not. And if you just keep at it, right, there's no other way it can go, and eventually you'll start to feel the difference it's making. You'll start to feel more relaxed, you'll start to feel more at home, even in a crazy world. Even in a crazy world. When they say the kingdom of heaven on earth, what they were talking about is a state of being, not a condition, not what's happening, but a state of being. The kingdom of heaven is you. The kingdom of heaven is the experience of you experiencing your awareness with consistency all day long. So it gives you a ground of being in your life, so that your functioning is now in a balanced way. And just by practicing that, the mind will start to transform. It'll stop being crazy. It'll stop presenting you with all these neurotic ideas about yourself and other people and what's going on in the world. And all you'll have for the insanity that you see on the news is compassion. All you'll have when you look at the news is compassion and a sense of sorrow. That's what Jesus Christ, back in when they used to, and they still do, when they have pictures of Jesus Christ, they have the heart and they have all of the halos coming out of the heart, right? That's sorrow. Jesus was experiencing profound sorrow about the condition of human beings that was unnecessary. That's what's so sorrowful about it. It's unnecessary. So if you start to understand the possibility, right, just the understanding of the possibility will be the motivation you need to practice meditation consistently, formally and informally, and to dedicate time every day in your life to studying the wisdom teachings. What are the wisdom teachings, right? Well, if you were brought up as a Catholic, listen to Richard Rohr. He's teaching the wisdom teachings. He actually quotes Buddha. For a Catholic priest, that's getting away with something, right? Yeah, so he's got an action for the Center for Action and Contemplation. You can check that out if you come from a Christian background. If you're interested in Buddhism, you can listen to my favorite Buddhist teacher, my Zen teacher, up at the Ithaca Zen Center where I go to practice. And he has live meetings on Wednesday nights. A lot of you have attended those meetings where he gives talks. He's a living master. He's an awake human being. And so to listen to him talk, you're listening to somebody talk from an experience of clarity. You're listening to somebody talk from an experience of the truth. And so it's very, very valuable and it's free. And he also makes himself available for retreats. I've done a number of retreats up there with him. And at some point that may come up for you to do a retreat, to put the mind in boot camp for a week, see if it can survive, right? To go and sit 10 or 12 times every day for 7 days, right? See, when I say that, it's interesting. You want to see your mind? I'll show you your mind right now. How many people here would be interested in going on a 7-day retreat? We'll practice 10 times a day. We'll do walking meditation between the practices. We'll sleep 4 hours a night. We'll eat pure vegetarian food. There'll be no talking for the entire time, and you'll meet with the Zen master twice a day. Who's ready? I heard your mind. Your mind saying, oh, no, he's not talking to me. Is he looking at me? He's not talking to me. That's your mind. That's your mind. If you want to know what your mind is, right, it's that which is resisting the whole process of learning how to meditate and practicing meditation. The mind wants nothing to do with it, right? Because if you're successful, the mind's out of business. It's got to shut down its operation if you're successful. And one of the things that's very important for you to understand is that the possibility to discover here is that you can actually be awake, aware, wise, and intelligent, and function fully without thinking. Let me say that again, because most people are so hypnotized about thinking being sacred that they don't believe it's possible. It's possible for you to experience a profound sense of well-being, to live a life of clarity, to live a life that's heartfelt, to live a life that's totally fulfilled, and to be very effective in doing that without thinking. Einstein said, one of the greatest thinkers of our time, he said he wasn't thinking when he got the theory of relativity. He was relaxed and he was open. One of the ways you can look at this is when we're doing the practice of meditation, one way to look at this is that when you're being the awareness of the body breathing, right? When you're being the awareness of the body breathing, the awareness that was really focused and tight, right? When you're thinking, your awareness is focused and tight on one thought after another, right? Like that, right? And when you're practicing meditation, you start to let go and relax the body and let the mind start to calm down by moving your attention away from the thinking activity and focusing it on being the awareness of the body breathing. It goes like this. You're paying attention to thinking, and then when the attention goes to awareness of the body breathing, And then a thought comes. You see it? And then you bring your attention away back to the body breathing. It's opening. You're opening the mind. You're allowing the mind to relax and be open to discover its source so that you can align yourself with the source of what you are instead of the personality. So you can get the personality out of the way. I heard somebody say, talking about meditation, and they said, if you get awake enough, you can experience pre-sense. Pre-sense. If you put it together, it says presence, right? But if you separate apart, it says pre-sense, meaning you're aware before you have sense information. You're here before the senses report in, right? Most of us don't know that experience because we think we're here after the senses report in. In other words, seeing happens, it's a sense, right? Seeing happens, right? And then the mind says, oh, I just saw something. It just took the seeing away from you and claimed it. That's what happens. I just saw something. I'm walking, the mind says, oh, you're walking. See, what's happened is the mind is claiming your identity all the time. It's claiming what you hear. When you hear something, it says, oh, I heard that. I did that. I saw that. It's claiming all the senses, right? So it comes after the senses, doesn't it? Something happens and then the mind claims it, right? But if you're awake, you get in front of that. Now you're pre-sense. I am awake before the senses. I was here before I smelled that. You see the difference? That's like getting in your life. That's like being present for your existence, to get present before what happens and during what's happening and after what's happening. Instead of being dependent on what's happening, to use that to say that you're real. You see that? The mind uses what's happening to say it happened to me. The mind tells you it happened to you, when that's not true at all. It didn't happen to you. It happened to your body, it happened to your senses, it happened to your personality, right? But none of that is you, none of that is your true nature. So the longer you persist in this process of doing this practice and indulging in these teachings and these pointings, it will transform your life and you will experience a transcendental experience of being alive. Transcendence means you'll rise above it instead of suffering from being in it all the time. You'll rise above it. You'll be the witness of it instead of the one being tortured by it. Right? You can start to witness your mind instead of having your mind, put you through all the changes it puts you through all day and keeps you involved in instability and conflict and depression and anxiety and confusion, all the things that people come to psychotherapy about. And conventional psychotherapy can cure none of that. Of course, the people that go to school and spend a couple of $100,000 on an education aren't going to tell you this. But the truth is that psychotherapy is very, very limited in terms of the difference it makes. I mean, after all, the person that comes back to therapy the week after the first session isn't the same person. How can you be very effective? If you were going to be realistic, you would have to start all over again, right? So with this, you don't have to start all over again, because once you make contact with it, it's consistent, it's available at all times, right? And it gives you everything that people have been trying to get from the world. You don't have to pursue happiness anymore when you're happy. You don't have to worry about whether you're peaceful or not when peace is where you're coming from. And that's one of what the Buddha called the three gems. Right? The three gems. And the three gems are made up to produce the result of an awake, fulfilled human being. And the three gems are the teaching, right? The teaching, the truth, the teaching, right? The teacher, and the community. And if you put all of those three together, they have the power, right, to produce a very profound effect. Right? So one of the things that I want to do in this class is invite you to invite other people, because it's free. It's free, and I'm a psychologist, and I am telling you that this is psychotherapy. If you come to this class, you will be in a psychotherapeutic process for free. I guarantee you. And if you do the practice every single day without fail, you will start to see yourself dealing with your own mind. You don't need me to do it. You can start dealing with your own mind and your own emotions, and you could start dealing with that in a way that will produce real, practical results. For free. For free. You know, some people hear the truth and they get it, right? Other people hear the truth and they don't get it. It takes some time, right? So in the beginning, you're starting out in a dualistic situation, right? Because you're starting out with who you took yourself to be, being a separate self with a body, right? So that's where you're starting out, right? So that's not a problem, right? So we'll work with that until it disappears. And it will disappear because it was never real. So that takes some time, but we got some time, right? But don't waste time, because you don't have that much time, and anything can happen, right? Don't assume anything. Don't assume for tomorrow. This may be your last day. I'm not kidding. Don't assume for tomorrow. That's stupidity. That is total stupidity. You should be living your life like this is the only life there is. This moment is the only life there is, and that's the truth. You know, people are living for the future because they're afraid of dealing with the present. You know, that's why the identity that you take yourself to be doesn't like the present moment. Do you ever notice that? It's always looking for the future. What can I look forward to? What could I remember? It avoids the present moment. Your personality avoids the present moment. You know why?
It's not comfortable.
Why isn't it comfortable? Because it can't produce the illusion that it's real there. It's got to have something to use to produce the illusion that it's real. I can look backward and say, I could show you pictures of me in the past, of my body that I take to be me, right? Or I could talk with you about what's going to happen in the future, and we could worry about it, right? That makes us real. That makes me real, right? Just by being with other people who believe they're real, it makes me feel real, right? Because we have agreement, right? Reality is a function of agreement, right? A dollar bill is a dollar because everybody says it is, right? The time is now about 6 p.m. because everybody agrees it is, right? Is there really time? No. But are you willing to take it to the next step? Are you really real? No. People say, wait a minute. Okay about the time, but the other thing, I don't want to go there, right?